Coming up on the official Celtic FC podcast, Andreas Hinkel looks ahead to the upcoming Legends match at Paradise, and he reflects on his time at Celtic and why he feels a special connection with the club.
I always say to all the people, the Celtic is a special club, and it's not just about football, and it's like if you sign for this club, I'm always a boy, I always Celtic related.
Andreas, welcome to the official Celtic FC podcast. Great to have you on. You're obviously over in Germany. How are things with you over in Germany just now?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much that I can be with you here now at the moment. I'm in Germany at the moment. Just came back from holidays, but now I'm in Germany, and just 2 weeks to go. That the school is starting. I'm spending the time with my family, with my children here in Germany, and doing things I couldn't do in the past when I was involved as a coach.
Yeah, and I was wondering, are you in the middle of a fitness regime ahead of this charity game at Celtic Park on September the 6th?
Yeah, you're right. I started to get fit, not to get fit. I think I'm quite fit, but you have to take care of your body, of course, and you have to do the right things. But it was quite difficult on holiday, to be honest. We went to Italy, and the food is quite good there,
Yeah.
And so, but I did some runs there, and and I did some strength work as well. So. And there is a little bit time to go, and I can bring myself in shape for the game.
So obviously you're coming over to Celtic Park for the Foundation Legends match on September the 6th between Celtic and Manchester United. Will this be the first time that you'll be back on the pitch as a Celtic player since you left the club back in 2011 then?
Yeah, as a player, yes. Yeah, I visited Celtic and in general some games as well, because I did my coaching batches. I visited, when was it? I think 2019 or 2018. Brendan Rodgers was the manager, and I still have contact with John Kennedy, and I did my I don't know how to say it in English, I had to do something abroad, spent a few days in a club and watch the club and speak with the people who are in charge of things, of scouting, of everything, and that was 2018, but it was, I think, before I went to Celtic Park with my family on holidays, and I was there in Celtic Park. I showed them Celtic Park, and so I was there several times and to watch some games as well. But as a player, of course, it will be the first time since I left.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, obviously, coming back into the dressing room, pulling on the hoops again, it'll bring back lots of memories over and above the fact you'll be sharing a dressing room again with some of your former teammates. I'm sure all the good memories are going to come flooding back.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to it. There will be coming up some stories, old stories for sure, and I'm looking forward to this and to share these old stories again, and to share a few nice days with the boys. In general. At the moment, to be honest, I don't know who is in the squad for the game, but there will be some players I can imagine I played with.
Yeah, there's quite a few players that you would have played with. So I don't know whether you want to just keep that as a surprise and then you turn up and the dressing room's filled with old friends. And I suppose when you've played, particularly for a club like Celtic, and the success you enjoyed and that intensity, you've always got that link and that bond, even if you're not in regular contact with your former teammates.
I just can say, and I always said it before when I signed for Celtic, when I signed for the club. Since then, you are always. I think you are always part of the family. It's about a part of the Celtic family, and it feels still like this. I still have contact, even if I don't have as you said, regular contact, every week, every month. But I still have contact. And for example, I think the last match, the home match against Livingston, some friends of mine from Freiburg, my last club I played for, they had holidays in Scotland, in the Highlands, and then around this game, they had a, I don't know, apartment or hotel close to Glasgow, and I connected the people who are in charge of ticketing, and they could visit the game. So I have still touch to Celtic, and I can. And I like to have this connection, and I feel still like a family, So yeah, there will be always the connection in future as well, and that's I always say to all the people, the Celtic is a special club, and it's not just about football, And it's like if you sign for this club, I'm always a boy, I always. Celtic related, and yeah, so
Because quite often I've spoken to players, particularly if they're not from Scotland, and they've enjoyed their experience here, and then when they leave, invariably, no matter where you end up or where you end up on holiday, you're going to bump into Celtic fans, and as soon as they recognise you, as you say, it's a kind of part of a wider family, and once you've joined it, that's you part of it for life.
That's it. There's another story when you said it. I was in Glasgow, for example, with RB Leipzig, to play against Rangers in the semi-finals, Europa League semi-finals, and unfortunately, we couldn't beat them. But when we had the walk in the city, in the city center, of course the people recognized me. Of course, the Rangers fans as well, they recognized me. And my coaching staff, then they experienced what it's like, in Glasgow, the feeling, the atmosphere. It's Celtic and Rangers, and I'm from Celtic, and everybody recognized and everybody supported Leipzig, to beat Rangers. And as I said, unfortunately we didn't. But this is something, yeah, that's always there. And my coaching staff, the head coach Domenico Tedesco, he felt this. I always told him, what's special about Glasgow, about Celtic, and yeah, and he felt it, and it's always a special atmosphere, in Glasgow, because it's divided, and about the old firm, it's always special, but the club is unique, for me.
Yeah, and is that something that it's only when you join you can really appreciate that? Obviously the rivalry, the intensity of it, but then the scale of it that goes well beyond just the city and the country. But it's only really when you're a Celtic player that you can really start to understand that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and it's something you have to feel it on the pitch. But I mean, around or in Glasgow, or in Scotland in general. I mean, they always ask the question, of course, you can be from somewhere else in Scotland, and they ask you, of course, I'm a Dundee United supporter, but what is after that? It's always, are you Rangers or Celtic? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always this question in whole Scotland. So this is something really special, and you can feel it not just as a player. I think you can feel it in the country. All the people who live in Scotland or in Glasgow, they can feel the atmosphere, and yeah, you feel it in the city, and of course you feel it more when it's getting closer to an old firm, for example, because the media, the newspapers, everybody is talking about it. So. But it's not just about the old firm. I have to say, for me, Celtic was always something special because of the roots, the Irish roots as well. Because when we went out of Scotland, for example, for pre-season, and we went to Australia, for example, I remember, or United States, always the stadiums were full of Celtic supporters, and because of the Irish roots. Of course, the Irish people, there are, of course, in Australia, a lot of Irish people, roots, I mean, and in the States. So, and this is something where you can feel that Celtic is something really special and big. It's a big club for me.
It's one of the, obviously, our Irish roots are something that we're really proud of. The kind of charitable aspect to the club, which is a kind of seamless link between the links of the club, the way we started, and then obviously this game that you're playing in is to raise money for the foundation. And again, that's something that we're obviously as Celtic fans proud of, and as players come to the club, they become aware that it's more than just about the football. It's about sometimes just using football to help people that need it the most in our communities.
Yeah, and I was always interested in the story about clubs where I played for, and this was something, I think it's kind of DNA in Celtic since the club was founded from Brother Walfrid, and this kind of fundraising or charity work, they did since they were founded, the club was founded. I think this is something, as you said, this is part of the club, and that's something special. It's not just a football club. They always take care about the people, the poor people, the people, they don't have that luck, in life, for example. They grew up in difficult circumstances, and to help them. And I think this is, since the club is founded, and it's still going on, and it's a really good thing. And of course, I felt it as a player already, all the charity work that the club did during my time when I was a player, but it's still going on. And of course, the match we are playing is an event, for example, to do good things, for people who are not that lucky that we are, for example, or that players are.
Is that one of the, obviously, we spoke about the fact that you get the chance to come back to Celtic Park, to see old friends, to get back on the pitch. The fans will love seeing you here. But it's also maybe just a reminder that the position that you're in as players, as ex-players, allows you to do what you can to help other people, and be using the skills that you've got in order to raise awareness and raise money and in your own little way help.
If you take it or if you see it serious and you think about it, I think you should do it as a player. And if you are able to do it, and if you are able to help, with your skills and with all you did in the past, maybe. And I think for me, it's normal then to help or to be part of this kind of events, and maybe to be in touch with supporters again and to help. It's a win-win-win situation maybe for everybody, because I mean, the supporters, they feel the history about the club. They can see former players. They have maybe contact with us, more contact than before, maybe, I don't know, because it's always, what I mean, it's always difficult to come close to the players, even more difficult now, these times maybe. And so I think it's a good thing, and everybody can do his part, to raise money for a good thing.
You mentioned earlier on, just a nice line that you said, once you've been at Celtic, you're always a boy, you're always part of the Celtic family. I'm guessing you still keep an eye on the team and on the results and stuff, but can you believe that it's actually about 14 years since you were at Celtic? I mean, has time flown in for you then? Or, when you look at what you've gone on to do in your career as a player, but then also as in terms of coaching, etc., has that just flown in since you've been at Celtic?
The time is flying, you said it, it's incredible. I can't believe it, It's 14 years ago. I'm getting old, So, and, I always had a look. I couldn't always watch the games, but if I could, or if I had a possibility, I even watch the games, I'm still, as I said, it's one of my clubs I played for, and it will be always one of my clubs, and I always follow my former clubs, because I was always if I decided in the past, if I decided for one club, then I take it serious, and I took it serious, and I wanted to know everything about the club, and I identify with the club 100%. And so it's still, I still follow the club, the results, and I had a lot of not chats, or I wrote about players. Arne Engels, for example, with Kendo, he asked me about players, when I was assistant coach for Belgium. So I was always in touch with some guys of the club, and Kendo, for example, more than other ones. But I was interested because football always changed. The last 14 years a lot, and of course Celtic, maybe they don't have the same how can I say, the same possibilities, in kind of it's not a big league, Scotland, so they have to compete with really top teams in the Champions League, you know what I mean, and they have to think more about how can we compete with the top teams there, and it's a challenge, and it was always the question in my time to go to the Premier League. I don't know, and it was always never, Celtic never went to Premier League, but it was always, the question came always up. I don't know how it is right now, but I don't think it's a question anymore. But it was always a question to join the Premier League and to get the TV money of the Premier League, and of course then Celtic would be exploding. It would be a really, 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 it's for me it's a big club, but just to compete to get players like the teams from the Premier League or Bundesliga or the Primera División or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But but I have to say they always did a great job because they competed even with the big clubs. When I watched the last 14 years, as you said, when I left the club, even then there were some really good games in the Champions League against really top clubs. They could compete, and yeah. But it's of course interesting to watch how they go on, or how they work with these circumstances.
Yeah, because you said there you obviously keep an eye and a keen eye on all your former clubs. What did you do whenever two of your former clubs played each other? Were you just hoping for a draw?
Uh, no. It's always oh, it's depending, but there is a ranking a little bit inside, of course, and I have to say Celtic is quite at the top. Of course, VfB Stuttgart is my former club. I grew up there,
Yeah,
and fortunately, they didn't play against each other, I think, after I left.
yeah,
I'm not sure you know it better, but I don't think so. But the other clubs, for example, of course, I was player for RB Leipzig, and they played against RB Leipzig, but I was there for 9 months as a coach. So the bonding, or how to say, it's not that strong. In 9 months, I was a coach, or I was a player, and I was there 3.5 years. My daughter was born there. All these kind of things, and there's still a relation. Of course, Celtic is then a little bit more in my tape, in my classification, or in my
yeah.
table than the other clubs.
Because I suppose that, the age your kids are now, they maybe wouldn't have seen you, certainly not playing for Celtic, but obviously the advantage of the internet allows them to see footage. But I'm guessing even this sort of game, coming back here for the charity game, it allows them, they're at an age now they can still see to an extent what their dad did, and the kind of level of affection that Celtic fans have even after all these years for you, which is nice, I suppose, as a family to experience.
Yeah, of course I will take all my family to the game, as well. Yeah, of course and there are still holidays for my children. That's really good. And yeah, I finished my professional career quite early, and even the biggest two children didn't see me really on the pitch performing, what I was able to do or what I played, but as I said, the one who's getting 8 next or during the time when we are, is it the day of the match? I think it's the day of the match, huh?
Yes, the second. Yeah, you said before his birthday's on the day of the game, September the
Yeah,
6th.
exactly. And he was really, he didn't know, or he doesn't know what I did, in the past, really, and so I have to, as I said, I have to bring my body in shape to perform a little bit,
There's pressure on you.
at Celtic Park, and as good as I can, and then maybe, of course, they see what I did in the past and what for a club I played for,
Yeah. Have you shown them the video of your Celtic goal?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I don't show it every week or every month, but maybe a few years ago I showed it once, that the goal I scored for Celtic. But I mean, I gave many assists as well, so many crosses, and I remember one game. It's always one of the top games in general in my career. It's the Old Firm we played, and it was the game. It was a night game, what is not usual for
Yeah,
Old Firm.
yeah.
And it was the game where Jan Venegov Hesselink he scored in
The last minute.
time. Yeah, last
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
And everything was involved in this game because we were leading. We had to win, had to become champion, and we were leading. Naka scored the first goal. Then they equalized in the second half, and we missed a penalty. Scott McDonald missed the penalty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, and everything was involved. Penalty, we missed it, and then in injury time we scored, and at the end we won the league. Yeah, but I think this was one of the best games I was involved in. In general, because of Old Firm atmosphere in the night. Everything was inside. It was really close, and I think it was a turning point in the season. It was the first game. I think 2 weeks later we played again at Celtic Park. We won 3-2.
Yeah.
And then at the end we won every game, and I think they draw in Motherwell one game, and then that was the chance for us to
Yeah. Because that must have been, I imagine that must have been tough as a new player coming in. So you came in the January. Obviously, it was a very tight in terms of the league, but obviously the club was having to deal with what was happening off the park with Tommy Burns.
exactly,
Such an
yeah.
integral part of the club, and he passed away.
Mm.
I always think Gordon led the club and led the team so well at that point, because that must have been difficult for, I say, even for players like yourself that were only in a few months, because it's more than just football and you're having to deal with. It's the emotion of losing somebody that was really close to the squad.
Yeah, you're right. It was, even if I was that short time there, in January I joined Celtic, but I had the chance, to get him Tommy Burns. He was a funny guy. I didn't know him like other people, other players, but I had the chance to get him known. I remember in St. Mirren we played one of the first games, but the old stadium, huh? The old stadium.
Love Street, yeah.
And he made jokes like, "Hey, it's different than in the Primera División," huh? And he was a funny guy, and it was really a small dressing room, and yeah, and then all things that happened in the season, it was quite emotional, and I could experience in this short time what the club is about, what it means for the, how can I, it's difficult to explain, everything, like how they stick together, the supporters and the players and former players. And I think it's a thing about respect as well. I like something like this because former players, they are part of history in clubs, you know. And there's always a human being side as well. It's not just you are a player, and when you're leaving the club, you are not interesting anymore. You know, you are part, and you did a piece of history. You are a piece of the history of the club,
Yeah.
and you did something for the club. And so some players more and some players less, but I always felt this kind of, that is, as I said before, that you are part for the whole life with this club. Then when you give everything for the club, of course you have to identify, you have to give everything for the club. It's always something like this. It's not just that you receive everything. You have to do your job as well, of course. But then and this was, as you said, quite short time. For me, it was a big change from Sevilla because of everything. You know, the weather was totally different. In
Yeah.
January, it was even worse, I think, because I think when I moved to Glasgow, 1.5 months I didn't see the sky. You know, it was cloudy and it was dark. It was early dark. You know, it was 2 o'clock. It was dark already. And in Spain in January, it's quite good. In Sevilla, you have good weather. The pitches were different because of the rain and everything. So I picked up an injury at the beginning because of a muscle injury because of the pitches. I think I had to get used to it. But and then the Scottish accent, you know, the language in general, I thought it's easy, you know, it's English, no problem.
That's something
But at the
different.
beginning, it was not easy as well. And as you said, all the circumstances, you know, in the league as well to become champion, and then Tommy Burns, the situation with him, it was not easy, and all the things I experienced in this few months, the first few months was quite intense, yeah.
Yeah. Because the other thing I always think as well, so any player that plays even one game for Celtic, you know, again, as fans, you're living a dream that all of us at one point would have aspired to. But you know, when you look at when you played over 100 games for Celtic, that's an impressive. I always think that's an impressive statistic because of the pressures of playing for a club like Celtic. To be able to play that many times shows that you were doing something right over a sustained period of time, because there's always somebody waiting to take your place.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's something I felt when I signed for Celtic as well, that it's a big club. Just that I feel or I felt, you know, you have to win every game. It's history, you know, it's in the history. You know, the saying on the wall, I don't know, Celtic, the Celtic jersey is not for second best or something like
Yeah, yeah,
this. You know,
yeah.
the saying.
It doesn't shrink to fit inferior players. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. This one. I'm not that good, you know, in English that choose but it's like this, you know, you have to. This is something what is really good at Celtic as well, because you know if you sign for this club, they have ambition. They are ambition to win something. You know, to win games. You know, it's not to draw. You know, it's a big club, and all the big clubs in Europe are like this. You know, that they don't think how can we draw this game, or what can we do? You know, no, we go on the pitch and we want to win. And and of course it was really, for me, it was a really big honor. um, I think it was the second, after the second season, when I went to Ireland, Northern Ireland, to the supporter clubs of Northern Ireland. It's always before the season, and they are voting for the player of the season, and I got this trophy of glass, out of glass. They voted for me as the player of the season, and that meant a lot of for me, you know, because it's from the supporters. You know, it's even more than if journalists or other, you know, yeah, players are voting for me or something like this. These are the supporters, and that means something. You know, I did something, as you said. I gave everything. I did everything I could do, and they they voted for me, and I got this trophy, you know. So that meant a lot for me, you know. That shows, as you said, you know, that I did something
Yeah, because
right.
supporters can, I think, you know, players can have good games and bad games, but you've kind of said it a couple of times. If supporters think you're giving everything to the jersey, which means everything to them, they'll always have your back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. And even in sometimes you have bad times, you know. Of course, you have a bad period or something like this, but then you feel that the supporters are behind you, you know. They don't let you go down, you know, easily, you know.
Yeah,
I had this feeling, you know. I had this feeling really because we don't have had always a super, you know, times, you know, that but that they are behind you, and they if you give everything and you have hard time, that they stand behind you, you know. I felt it, you know. And yeah, it's always about behavior, of course, as well, how you act or react, and how you yeah, even in difficult times, how you speak, how you give interviews, how you, if you're humbled, if you're, you know, everything. I think this is something like Celtic is, you know, the supporters. If you are not a crazy guy, not like a guy who thinks he's the best and he knows everything and he can do everything, you know, I think, and you don't, and you know, you don't need to, or you shouldn't act, you know, like you are, you know, they can feel it. You have to
yeah,
be authentic, you know.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm sure you'll feel that again come September the 6th when you run out. I think you'll feel that. And as I say, it'll be nice for your family to see that and experience that as well. I don't know whether you do want to know some of the players that are in the squad. I've kind of got the squad list there if you want to. So
No, you don't need to say
no,
it.
you want it as a surprise.
Yeah, as a surprise, you know.
Oh,
As a
that
surprise, yeah, I think it's good because we have a meeting one day before the match. I think there's
yeah.
a meeting, and I think this will be great if there's a surprise and I meet them the first time. You know, the emotion will be different. You know, if I know that already that these guys are there. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
No, that'll be good. And as I say, I'm hoping, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And obviously, we've already touched on it. The charity Celtic Foundations, that ultimately the winner, as many people as possible can come along, enjoy the day. Hopefully, Celtic win. Maybe even see another goal from you, and we raise some money for charity as well.
hopefully, I just agree. You know, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been really good talking to you, and as I say, I think everybody's looking forward to the game and looking forward to seeing you back at Celtic Park. And as I say, you've said it during the course of the interview. You know, once you're part of this Celtic family, that's part of your family for life.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Coming with my family to Scotland or to Glasgow again, really, and having some great days together. That's really something I'm looking forward. Yeah.